Warning, the Renegade Recruiter is not for the soft, timid or faint-hearted. If you need permission or seek approval from your mother, spouse, mates in the pub, or anyone else for that matter, this really isn't for you. If any of what you've heard puts you off in the slightest, I advise you not to listen any further. You've been warned.
So I sound professional now?
Yeah, let's go.
Hi everyone, sorry about that. Listen, this is Terry Edwards here, the Renegade Recruiter. Hello and welcome to the Renegade Recruiter Unleashed, episode 2. And of course, we're joined by Drew Edwards. How are you, Drew?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm fantastic, despite all that dribbling on that we were going over earlier. Yes, I am. Absolutely fantastic.
Good stuff. So I get, Terry, so I know this is only the second episode. We didn't really do much of an introduction in the first episode. Can you just give our listeners just an idea of what they can expect going forward with the other podcasts you're going to be doing?
Yeah, sure. We're going to look. The sole objective of Drew Coaching is for the owners and directors of recruitment and search firms, and our sole objective is to really help you increase your sales, make a lot more money, and work fewer hours. We have no other objective than that. So these podcasts are precisely about that, to increase your personal earnings, work and work a lot less. Pure and simple. That's it, Drew.
Good stuff, great stuff. And as well, if you want to get more information, you want to make sure you're up to date with our latest podcast, you can go to the website, which will be up and running by the time you hear this, which is therenegaderecruiter.com. That's therenegaderecruiter.com. So Terry, the subject of this week's podcast is the best sales book ever written, an outrageously biased book review, and it's about a book. We're basically going to be doing a review on a book called The Persuasion, Influencing and Sales Recipe for Recruitment and Search Firm Owners. So Terry, I mean, who's the author of this book? The
author of this book is the legendary Renegade Recruiter, Terry Edwards. That's right. Okay. Seriously. It's me. That's why it's so biased, this book review. But on a serious note, this book. Look, if you're an owner or a director of a recruitment or search firm, this is for you, and keep listening. If you're a beginner in the industry and you've done a couple of pitches that quite haven't gone as you wanted to, this is for you. If you're an owner, you've got a team of recruiters and you've been in business for years, and you and your team are looking for new methods for making more money, this is for you. If you're the owner of a recruitment or search business and you do most of the billing, in fact, when you look at it, you're working to pay the wages of your underperformers in your team, and you would like your team to be billing at the same level as you and doing it consistently, this book is for you.
Great stuff, great stuff. So Terry, I mean, before we got on the call over the past few weeks, as you've been writing the book of, I've had a look through it, and I have to say it is very good. But I mean, for anyone who, I mean, a lot of people listening to this won't have read your first book, so they're sort of unfamiliar with your writing style and what you do. I mean, who's this book not for? Who should keep away from this book?
That's a great question, Drew. Look, if you're a sensitive soul and easily offended, this book probably isn't for you. If what you're doing right now is giving you the results that you want and you've got more money than you can actually manage, this book isn't for you. If you've got what we call a fixed mindset and you kind of believe that you know all there is to know, this book isn't for you. If you are a whinging, whining so-and-so, and I'll keep this polite, this book isn't for you. Does that make it absolutely clear who this book is not for?
Yeah, it does. And I mean, I think it's fair to say that the book is very good. It's straight to the point. There's no sort of fluff. You get straight to the point. I mean, obviously, anyone that's been receiving your emails knows your communication style, but it's very harsh. It's straight to the point. But everything in there is proven strategies taken from some of the world's top performers. So again, if increasing your sales is something that you're interested in, then I recommend that you do read this book. So Terry, can you just sort of give us a breakdown of each of the chapters? So chapter 1, I've got here down as an introduction to selling. And what do you talk about in chapter 1?
Yeah, some people go, well, are you crazy? So you're going to talk to me what selling is? I'm going to be absolutely clear here. Look, selling is a fair exchange of your services for money. But here's what selling isn't. Where the client says to you, here's a job order, you go off and work on it. If you get any results, I'll pay you. And I'll pay you the fees that I want to pay you. That isn't selling. Here's a sad fact about contingency recruitment. And we're going to cover this in a bit more detail. If a client gives you a job order and you're competing with the world and his wife, that isn't selling. Because what all you're going to end up doing, the average contingency recruiter, they fill between 15 and 30% of the jobs that they're working on. So let's say you fill 30%. You want to consider this. It means that 70% of the time you're working, you're not going to get paid. That is not selling. So we're going to look at what real selling is. So when you sell your recruitment or your search, you're going to get it on the retainer. You're going to get it an engagement fee. You're going to get it exclusively. The client's going to respect you. The client's going to return your calls because you've got that kind of relationship. This isn't for those guys that say, yeah, let me just throw 100 CVs or resumes at you and see how we get on. We're also going to be looking at beliefs, and this is a real key area here. Some people say, yeah, but Terry, I don't want to be too salesy. I get that, but it also implies that there's something wrong with selling. Here's a fact. Nothing happens until you start selling. That's a fact. So there's this myth that, well, if I'm really good at what I do in terms of recruitment and search, I get a load of business. Well, good luck on that one. You sit by the phone, wait for the call to come in because you're really good at what you do. That doesn't happen. So what we did is we looked at the most successful recruitment and search firms around the world, and we asked them a whole load of questions about what do you do? How do you sell? Why is it that most of the time when you go and get the business and you pitch for business, you get it? And what we came up with is, and that's why we use the term, the recipe, there is a recipe for success. And part of it is all about your mindset and what you believe. Now, one of the things is that if you believe that you deserve to be successful, you probably will be. If you believe at some level there's something dishonorable about selling, then you're probably not going to sell it. So we will actually look at some of your beliefs, and a lot of them come from your childhood, and things that your parents or people would have said to you when you were very young that you've held on to. We're going to look at that. We're going to share with you what most recruiters actually do and search firms actually do, and why it's so wrong. It's so wrong. It's almost scandalous. But in fact, we reckon about 70% of search firm recruiters do this, and it backfires, and you just be seen as a nuisance as far as your prospects are concerned. We're going to share with you exactly what to do. So rather than being the what we call the unwelcome pest, you're going to be the welcomed guest. There's a massive difference between the two of them. We're going to look at something called LTV. And somebody thought that was an exotic skin disease. It stands for lifetime value of your clients. So when you get a client, when the prospect becomes a client, what's that worth to you over a period of time? So we're going to be looking at all that in chapter 1.
Good stuff.
Sorry, Drew.
So I was going to move on to chapter 2. Chapter 2 is all about how to become a key person of influence. Can you just talk about the importance of that and how it sort of directly impacts the sales you're able to make?
Yeah, sure. If you think about the typical hiring manager gets between 5 and 20 cold calls a day, every single day. And one search firm or one recruiter firm, they'll just ring up saying, "Oh, we're fantastic. This is our mission statement. We're high integrity." And quite frankly, just talking about themselves, the client couldn't care less. One of the things we're going to share with you is how to become what's called a KPI, or a key person of influence. So the client wants to buy from you more than you want to sell to them. So we're going to share with you how to generate leads and how your position as an authority in your sector. We're going to give you the difference between what's called permission marketing and interruption marketing. And just a very brief...
I was going to say, just very quickly, can you just explain that for anyone that's completely new to this? What is the difference between permission marketing and interruption marketing?
Yeah, great question, Drew. So interruption marketing, if you imagine that you're at home watching TV and you're watching a big game and they say, "We'll be right back after the break." What they do is they interrupt your viewing to then display the ads to you, be it for a motor car, washing powder or whatever. Or you're reading a magazine and you see those ads in the magazine. Or you're driving along in your car or listening to your radio and the ads come on. They're all forms of interruption marketing. Classic interruption marketing that most search firms and recruiters use is they call a complete stranger. And they say something like this: "Look, well, you don't know me, I don't know you, but will you spend 10,000, 50,000, whatever it is with me?" That's interruption marketing. That's a bit like your local plumber ringing you up and saying, "Hi, I'm your local plumber, and I'm ringing to see if you've got any leaks in your house that I can repair." Now, I guess what you're going to say to that is, "Well, look, if I've got any leaks, I'm going to give you a call." But that's classic interruption marketing. Don't get me wrong, by the way, it does work, but it can be hard work.
Yeah. And I was going to just add to that. I mean, if you think about the average day in the life of any human being, we are literally bombarded by thousands of marketing messages every single day. So, I mean, from the moment you wake up, you perhaps grab the morning paper, you've got the print ads in the paper, you jump in your car and drive to work, you've got the radio commercials, you're driving past posters and billboards, you get into the office and you've got the dozens of emails that you'll receive throughout the day. You're probably getting telephone calls from other companies. You get home, you've got television commercials. I mean, marketing is literally everywhere. And what's happening now is that the brain switches off to the ones that we're not interested in. I mean, Terry, would you agree with that?
Definitely, and especially hiring managers. I mean, if look at it from their point of view, if they're getting 20 calls a day from recruiters, I mean, ask yourself this question: has a hiring manager ever said to you, "I really appreciate you interrupting my day with your cold call"?
You're listening to the Renegade Recruiter Unleashed podcast. For show notes, additional resources, and podcast updates, head over to www.therenegaderecruiter.com.
Ever. It doesn't happen. And, you know, as Drew said, we are bombarded with messages, marketing messages, every day of the week. And what you've got to do is you've got to stand out from the crowd. And what you've got to do is just talk to those people who've got some interest in what you're doing rather than trying to be all things to all people.
Great stuff. So, I mean, interruption marketing, I guess, permission marketing, is all about only marketing to people who, in a sense, have given you permission to market to them. So they're more on the lookout for your message. I mean, is that what you're trying to say, Terry?
Absolutely. Look, sorry, you say something, Drew.
No, carry on.
Yeah, I was about to say, there are four main reasons why a client will never, ever buy from you. I'm kind of skipping about here, Drew, with the book. So this is important in terms of permission marketing.
This is in chapter 3. Is this why clients will never buy from you? Yeah.
But I'm going to just kind of touch it now. One reason why they will never buy from you, they've got no need whatsoever for what you're actually offering. And permission, one of the things with permission marketing is you just identify those prospects that have some need for what you do. And you kind of get their permission. And we're going to share with you how you can generate a ton of leads by just identifying those prospects that have some interest in what you're doing. So they raise their hand, as we call it, and indicate they have some interest in what you're offering. And you then kind of you get permission then to position yourself as the authority in your particular niche and market to them so that when they're ready to buy, they actually come to you.
Okay, good stuff. So again, moving on to chapter 4, which is, I mean, you've called it "Why Should Your Client Buy From You?" I mean, what do you cover in this chapter?
Well, you know, it always makes me smile when I talk to search firms and recruiters, and I always ask a question. So, look, you've got a lot of companies out there. Why should they buy from you? Here's what the typical recruiter or search firm says: we're good, we're experienced, we've got good candidates. The one that makes me cringe is we're cheap. Really? Look, none of those things. Saying that why should the client buy from you, then giving the reasons that, which is really all that the client expects. So we do a good job. We're honest. One client said to me, "We have high integrity."
Yeah, it's almost like they're when a client asks a recruiter, "Why should I buy from you?" their response seems to be what you would expect from as a bare minimum.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Things like, "I'm a good recruiter, I'm honest." It's like I mean, everyone's going to be saying the same thing, essentially.
Absolutely, absolutely. So this is all about creating a powerful and compelling, unique selling proposition, or USP. So you stand above the crowd. And we're going to share with you in this book exactly how to craft a compelling USP. So that when the client's talking to you, because here's the thing, as you're talking to the client's asking that question. Well, I don't know why I should engage these guys. But the client's asking that question, but it's often they don't verbalize what's going on in their mind. And what you've got to be doing in your presentation is answering the questions that are going on in their mind. And if you can say, "Look, I get that you get a lot of phone calls from other search firms and recruiters. I get that you've probably got a relationship with somebody else. But here's the reason why you really should be working with us, and you just stand out from the crowd, that will make such a difference to your presentation. But even more importantly, you can then get the clients to be paying you more because you stand out from the crowd. So the client's got less resistance to your fees, and by the way, higher fees, because you've got this compelling and powerful USP. So not only will the USP make you stand out from the crowd, it means that you'll get higher fees and less resistance to your fees as well.
Great stuff. Awesome. I mean, but Terry, even with all of this stuff, I mean, assuming that you've got all this stuff in place that you talked about just previously, you're still going to get some objections from clients when it comes to them actually buying your services. I mean, in the book, do you cover anything about handling objections?
Yeah, and it again makes me smile. I know when I was a recruiter many years ago, and when I first entered the market, and somebody threw an objection at me, and I used to get a knot in my stomach at the very thought that somebody was throwing out an objection as to why they weren't going to engage me. And what I discovered with the real top billers, they kind of embrace it, because what it says to them is that if the client's asking a question or throwing out an objection, what it means at some level is that in the presentation, a question hasn't been answered, or they're not totally convinced. And what's interesting, Drew, is when we talk to these top billers, what we found was there's some common objection. Do you know there's only we think about 9 or 10 common objections that clients will throw at you again and again and again. And the real top billers have got a method of answering those objections. And there's a formula for answering those objections. And in the book, we actually give you the formula. In the book, we actually give you the most common objections that you get as a recruiter in a search firm. And we say, these are the most common objections. Now, here's the formula. Here's how to respond to those. And how so you handle those objections with ease. So really, you really do. So the client's going, that makes sense. And the client's then saying things to you, okay, so what is it we need to do to get started? Or, great, I'm ready to go. When you've answered the objections and when you've got that formula so that the client wants to buy from you your services more than you want to sell to them.
Yeah. Awesome. I think again, it requires almost a shift in how you look at objections and just really see them for what they are, which is an objection is the only thing between, a lot of the time, anything standing in between you getting the yes or getting the no. And so many recruitment staff and search firm owners, I know they'll get the objection and they'll see it as a no, whereas what they're really saying is they want more information.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Great stuff. So you
got what you do.
Brilliant. So you got a whole chapter on the most common objections that you get and also how to answer them. So whenever you get these objections, you'll be able to have a response that will help you make the sale. Terry, again, I know in the book you've got a whole chapter on sales scripts. And again, speaking to some of the recruitment staff and search firm owners, I get a lot of objection in this area because a lot of people think that when you have a sales script, it sounds scripted, and they almost prefer to wing it, almost prefer to go in, I guess, blind and not have a script. I mean, what would you say to that?
Yeah, first of all, I agree with you that most people do often object to scripts. But if you remember at the very beginning, we talked about who this book's for, and we talked about if you have a team of consultants working for you right now, but you're doing most of the billing, this book is for you. If you're not getting the business that you believe you deserve, and you're a solo recruiter, this book is for you. And one of the reasons is you're going to get some powerful scripts. Now, these scripts have been very carefully crafted by some of the top billers and also by some psychology as well. And there's scripts in there that literally guarantee that you can get your client and your candidate, by the way, to say yes by just adding, it's called a yes tag on the end of a statement, that you can literally guarantee to get clients and candidates to say yes. And my response I always say to scripts, when people say, well, I don't understand scripts, I'm going to sound too wooden. Look, here's a fact. You use a script at the moment. Think about your your favorite film or your favorite movie right now. As you think of that favorite film or that favorite movie, you realize that was a powerful script. Because we use scripts all the time. But there's scripts you can use. There's 19 words, by the way, that you can use at the beginning of every single sales meeting. If you use these 19 words at the beginning of every single sales meeting that you have, you'll increase your conversions by 20%. Think about that for a minute. That's the power of a script. So when the client says, "Oh, you're too expensive, I can get it cheaper down the road," do you know there's scripts that can handle those objections? So the client goes, "Oh, I get that. So yeah, I see why I should be working with you." But here's the thing with all this stuff, Drew, you've got to master it. Sure, it does sound wooden until you master it. And once you've mastered it and it becomes part of your vocabulary, then it doesn't sound like a script at all.
Yeah, and I guess it comes down, all the script really is essentially how you structure the sales process. And again, in the book, you talk about there's 9 different types of buyers. I mean, can you tell us just a bit more of what you mean by this?
Yeah, not all buyers are equal, by the way. There really are 9 different types of buyers out there. So in fact, let me tell you about the buyer that you must avoid at all costs. And this buyer is one of the terms for them is what's called a price buyer. They buy on price alone. They will engage you if you can be cheaper than somebody else. Now, here's a problem with a price buyer as an example. The price buyer who wants the lowest price has absolutely no loyalty to you whatsoever.
Yeah, because of course, I mean, if someone comes along with the cheapest price, they're going to go with them. Quite.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. So we share with you how to identify, the price buyers, and as tempting as it may be sometimes, avoid them like the plague. And what we find is, well, all the evidence shows that with the price buyers, they're also more demanding. So they have you jumping through more hoops. They're less likely to return your calls. They take longer to pay your invoices. They're not fun to be with, quite frankly, and you have nothing to do with them. The good news is they only make up about 20% of the market. That means that 80% of the market right now are not buying on price alone. And look, before as you're listening to this, you go, yeah, but my market's different, they buy on price alone. That's BS. That's not true. A percentage of your market buy on price. I agree with that. On a low price, incidentally, a percentage of your market will also pay a premium. So as a percentage of your market, if you had a premium package, they would pay for that. If you think about that, I suppose a great example is the Apple iPhone, which as everybody knows is a smartphone. Well, there are hundreds of different smartphones on the market, but the Apple iPhone is 5,000% more expensive than the cheapest smartphone. 5,000%. Here's the facts though. Apple iPhone have approximately 17% of the smartphone market, but they're one of the most expensive smartphones on the market. See, what Apple did is they've identified their buyers. You go into an Apple store and say, I want discount on that, and just look for their reaction. Now, you go into an Apple store and say you're going to buy 20 of their phones and ask for a discount. It's not going to happen because they know the type of buyers and they know which sort of buyers they want to be working with. Does that make sense, Drew?
Yeah, it does. It makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. Awesome, good stuff. I mean, it sounds really good. Is there, again, just very quickly, so you got one more chapter that I particularly want to talk about, which was called, Do You Have a Business or a Job? And again, I know this is going to resonate with a lot of recruitment staff and the search for owners out there. Can you just explain what you mean by this?
Yeah, sure. I call it the fantasy of the standard recruitment to search for a owner. And the fantasy goes something like this. Yeah, I'm a great recruiter and I'm going to go off on my own. I'm going to bring in other guys and then we're going to create this fantastic business and I'm going to make a lot of money and I'm going to be very successful and all happy days. If only it was as easy as that. Sadly, what happens is most recruiters and search guys, they go off on their own. Initially, some of them, they go off on their own and may go off with somebody else, but they do most of the work. Here's the sad thing: if your earnings are dependent on your personal billings, that is not a business. That's a job. A business is where, regardless of your personal billings, you take a good income out of your business. And one of the things about this book is to help you make as much money as possible with as little work as possible. Now, we talked earlier about the scripts. One of the other advantages of the scripts is once you systemize your business and you've got scripts that you can share with your consultants, And you say to your consultants, when you get a job order or the possibility of a job order, this is the script that you follow. Example, and I'm just kind of skipping about it, but this is all connected between scripts and, and creating the business. There are 4 questions that you should ask that you should ask once you get a job order. Every single time. Just asking these 4 questions means that you will work less and earn more. But that's a script. That's systemizing your business. So when your consultants say, I've just got this order, you say, have you asked these 4 key questions? Quite frankly, not asking these 4 key questions, you haven't got a job order. And so we talk about how you can create a business rather than a job. So your personal earnings are not reliant on that of your personal billings. And I go into a lot more detail in the book itself.
Awesome. Great stuff. So, I mean, if anyone's interested in getting this book, Terry's given away a free segment or free chapter, and you can get that by going to www.recruitmentsalesrecipe.co.uk. That's www.recruitmentsalesrecipe.co.uk. And you can get you can download a free chapter there for free. Terry, again, thanks for sharing that. I mean, again, I've read sort of the rough copy of the book, and I can say it's really, really good. Although, as we said before, it is an outrageously biased book review, but it probably is the best recruitment sales book ever written. But I mean, again, you don't have to take our word for it. You can go in and get your free chapter and see for yourself. Terry, what are you going to be covering in the next podcast?
Yeah, in episode 3, we're going to be looking at there's only 3 ways to grow your business. And we're going to share with you literally how to increase your sales 100% with these 3 methods. So the 3 ways that you can grow your business, and it's not as complicated as you think. If you just apply this to your business, you will increase your sales and you will increase your personal earnings. So that's what we'll be covering in the next one, Drew.
Great stuff. Again, Terry, thanks. It's been brilliant. I will see you next week. Until then, take care, take action, and be relentless.
You're listening to the Renegade Recruiter Unleashed podcast. For show notes, additional resources, and podcast updates, head over to www.therenegaderecruiter.com.